To our viewers in Asia and hello to others watching from around the world, welcome to Arirang News. It's been a few days since the high-ranking North Korean delegation left Pyeongchang, but the impact of their visit is far from fading. Reports and editorials are pouring out on the possibility of an inter-Korean summit, and President Moon Jae-in has also made a statement regarding that issue. Today, we sit down with an expert for a closer look at the current and post-Olympics inter-Korean relations. But first, here's Devin Whiting with the latest headlines at this hour. Devin?
Hi, Don. Well, the Trump administration is continuing to take a tough stance on North Korea. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has reiterated that Washington's policy is maximum pressure. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, meanwhile, says he's waiting for Pyongyang to reach out for talks. Lee Seung-jae reports.
Keeping maximum pressure on North Korea, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has reiterated that the Trump administration will continue to stand up against North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Addressing the crowd at a Republican fundraiser in Texas on Sunday, Pence said the strongest measures will be put on North Korea, adding that there will be no change in their stance until the North decides to give up its ballistic and nuclear missile programs. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said in an interview with CBS that he's listening for signs that North Korea is ready to engage in direct talks. Tillerson added that while he's listening, he's not sending a lot of messages back, with nothing to say at this point. With the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games thawing relations between the South and North Korea, it's been speculated that direct talks between Washington and Pyongyang could be on the horizon after months of tension and heated rhetoric. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Trump administration is moving ahead with its plans to protect American industries from foreign competition. It's considering new restrictions and tariffs on products from countries including South Korea, a close U.S. ally. Some of those tariffs, like steel, in the name of national security. Korean tech firms could also be impacted since they've been accused of patent infringement. Cha Sang-mi has more.
Concerns are growing over the fate of Korea's major export items in the wake of continued global import restrictions by the United States, including recent safeguard measures against Korean-made steel and washing machines. The U.S. International Trade Commission on Sunday said it had already opened up a probe into several global tech giants, including South Korea's Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix on January 19th, to look into whether the companies are infringing upon intellectual property rights of solid-state drives. The investigation came after a U.S. chipmaker Bitmicro had filed a complaint against the firms in early January. The U.S. ITC can restrict import items under Section 337 of the Tariff Act on allegations of patent or trademark infringement. As Samsung Electronics has the largest SSD market share in the U.S., with 30% of the market, and SK Hynix is ranked 7th, some industry leaders see the move as a way to target the Korean firms. KOTRA, the Korea Trade Promotion Corporation, also picked steel, home appliances, and cars as areas that are likely to see import restrictions in the first half of 2018.
A lot of companies are being encouraged to file anti-trade suits, anti-dumping or safeguard. And you see a lot of investigations being started right now. Whether it'll spread to industries, other industries than steel or automobiles, it really depends on the company.
The expert predicts requests for import restrictions in steel and manufacturing sectors will increase in the future, not just for Korean goods, but other countries' goods as well. The U.S. Department of Commerce urged the Trump administration last week to impose steep tariffs and quotas on imported steel and aluminum, including shipments from South Korea. Section 232 of the National Security Review unveiled on Friday suggested a range of tariff options on imported steel and aluminum. One of the options is a 53% tariff on 12 steel exporting countries, including South Korea, China, and Brazil. President Trump will decide in April which tariff option to impose. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, at the Winter Olympics in Korea, visitors are finding that there's more to do at the Olympic venues than watch the competition. Some fans collect pins or badges as souvenirs from the Games and trade them to build their collections. Some of the pins are quite rare, and it's a fun way for locals and foreign visitors to mingle. Lee Ji-won has more from the coastal town of Gangneung.
A massive crowd has gathered at a square in the Gangneung Olympic Park. It might look like they've come to see a medal race on the street, but in fact they're here to trade pins. Pin trading is one of the unique traditions that's developed over the years at the Olympic Games. Anyone with a pin can go up to a trader or anyone else with a pin they like and ask if they want to trade.
Hello. I want to change this badge to this.
Yes, that's from Vancouver 2010, and it's a hockey pin. Are you interested?
Okay, of course.
Okay.
Thank you.
And good trip. Thank you.
I traded my Korean flag badge with a pin from the Sochi Olympics. I'm trying to collect pins with the Olympic rings to commemorate the event.
Traders from all across the globe have been building their collections for years, and they have a keen eye for what visitors are offering. Though rare pins are much coveted, a pin that represents the ongoing Olympics and the host country is also greatly valued. And pin traders say that through trading, they can feel the Olympic spirit.
For the last 15 games, I've been actively pin trading and promoting the idea of fellowship through this kind of activity between the different venues. And everybody's just very excited that young girls come up and they're screaming and hollering. They see, so that's what warms my heart.
Many Olympic sponsors have also joined in the pin trading culture by giving out pins through various events. And starting with the 1988 Calgary Olympics, Coca-Cola has been setting up an official pin trading center.
People line up to learn more about the history of pin trading and enjoy the excitement themselves. And while this culture wasn't big in Korea before, it has quickly gained a lot of popularity among locals as well.
I didn't know much about pin trading before, but it seems like a nice way to remember the moment. It feels like a treasure hunt.
Pins have been available since the first modern Olympics in Athens to distinguish athletes, referees, and spectators, but they've now become a tradition that brings people from different countries and groups together to share not just the Olympic history, but the spirit as well. 이지원, Arirang News, Gangneung.
Those of you in PyeongChang or Gangneung for the Olympics have a great opportunity to see the surrounding province of Gangwon-do with a guide. The local government has arranged for local taxi drivers to give day-long tours of the area for a reasonable, fixed price, making it a lot easier for those without their own transport to see more of Korea and its culture. Won Jung-hwan reports.
After watching a sporting event at Gangneung Ice Arena, a family are on an unforgettable journey by taxi to their next destination. They're taking part in a program set up for PyeongChang 2018 by the Korea Tourism Organization, which arranged for more than 200 taxis to give private tours of Gangwon-do province during the Olympic and Paralympic Games.
The service was introduced at the start of the Winter Olympics to show people the ins and outs of Gangwon-do province. We'll do our best to provide a comfortable stay for every visitor.
Even if it's your first time in the area, with this program you won't need to worry about the fare or where to go, since you'll be on an exclusive tour with a local driver for a set fare. During the Winter Games, visitors who have purchased tickets to any winter sporting event can apply and enjoy a tour around the host province, taking in the region's natural scenery, traditions, and culture. The taxi tour service gets you 8 hours within a distance of 100 kilometers. This family has signed up for 2 consecutive days while they're in Gangneung, and they say they find it very convenient.
Before we came, we were concerned about the traffic and where to go in Gangneung, but our taxi driver has given us some great information, so it was very convenient for us to get around the Olympic city.
For less than $20, those of you with tickets for an Olympic or Paralympics event can not only tour Gangwon-do province, but also see some often hidden gems in the area. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News, Gangneung.
I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines for this hour.
President Moon Jae-in was in PyeongChang over the weekend to cheer for the Korean skaters in the short track finals. He also met with journalists there, plus the officials and volunteers that made these Olympic Games possible. But when it comes to issues of geopolitics and the Korean peninsula, President Moon says it's still too soon to think about holding an inter-Korean summit in the north. Our Blue House correspondent Hwang Ho-jun reports.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch is the stance of South Korean President Moon Jae-in when it comes to a possible meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The liberal leader made those comments on Saturday during his latest visit to the host city of the Winter Olympics, stopping by the main press center to offer some encouragement to journalists from around the world covering the PyeongChang Winter Games. There's been an apparent thaw in relations between the two Koreas during the Olympics, but President Moon is still cautious about discussing the timing of a meeting between himself and the North Korean leader. However, he did note that there's a growing recognition of the need for dialogue between the U.S. and North Korea and said he looks forward to the momentum for inter-Korean dialogue leading to talks between Washington and Pyongyang and ultimately North Korea's denuclearization. The prospect of a visit to Pyongyang by President Moon first surfaced when North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's younger sister, Kim Yo-jong, made a historic visit to Seoul as her brother's special envoy last week. She delivered a personal letter from Kim containing an invitation for the South Korean leader to visit Pyongyang. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
And to talk more about current and future inter-Korean relations, we're joined by Dr. Bong Young-sik, a researcher at the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. Welcome to the program, Dr. Bong.
Well, pleased to be here.
I hope you had a nice holiday.
Happy New Year to you.
So as we saw in our report, President Moon made quite a surprising comment during the Lunar New Year holiday, quoting an old Korean saying. Now, many experts believe that he basically meant time is not yet ripe for inter-Korean summit. How did you interpret that comment?
Time is not yet ripe. He made a comment using the Korean proverb that you cannot seek hot, sweet rice tea at the water spring, right? Everything takes time. And he emphasized in his meetings with Ms. Kim Yo-jong, a special envoy sent by the Kim Jong-un government of North Korea, that inter-Korean summit is good, but it has to be met with the appropriate circumstances. Appropriate conditions should be met. And this is a clear reiteration of his basic position that expressed to Ms. Kim Yo-jong. And in that regard, I think this is a really wise and timely remark, which dampen any possible concern and anxiety among those who are worried that in order to maintain the early momentum during the in PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games, the Moon Jae-in government may too early push ahead with the inter-Korean summit without keeping it in harmony with the purpose of the denuclearization of North Korea. So I think this is a really wise and timely comment to reiterate his basic position that inter-Korean summit is not so meaningful without North Korea first making a fundamental change of attitude with regard to its nuclear and intercontinental missile programs.
It was a very wise and timely
Definitely.
comment. Now, we can't overlook the Washington's North Korea stance. It's an important factor that can't be overlooked. But are Washington-Pyongyang talks a compulsory condition for inter-Korean summit?
Yes and no. It is a compulsory to inter-Korean summit if it is the purpose of the meeting between Pyongyang and Washington is to confirm North Korea's verifiable commitment to eliminating with a reasonable timeline its nuclear programs and the intercontinental missile programs that can target the United States. But as long as North Korean authority is going to make such a commitment clear to everyone, including the United States and South Korea, then United States has no strong reason to oppose two Korean governments having the summit meeting prior to a bilateral meeting between Washington and Pyongyang. The key issue is whether any progress made between the two Koreas will be in harmony with the goal of denuclearizing North Korea in verifiable, irreversible, and fundamental ways.
So I guess North Korea should take some actions first.
It is all up to North Korean authority.
Different U.S. officials are making different signals on the possibility of Washington-Pyongyang talks. So as a result, there are now mixed prospects of whether the U.S. will really sit down for talks with North Korea. How do you analyze the Trump administration's strategy for talks with North Korea?
Some people are concerned that there are too many different voices coming from Washington. I think that is only natural because North Korea's nuclear threat is a multi-layered threat. It is not only the nuclear intercontinental missile threat, but North Korea poses a great deal of threat to neighboring countries, including South Korea, only with its conventional capability, military capability. And the North Korean nuclear crisis has to be dealt as it is, which has multiple dimensions. So it is only natural for Trump administration to have diverse voices in dealing with Kim Jong-un authority. Having said that, for the first time in the entire history of North Korean nuclear crisis since 1993, for more than 25 years, such uncertainty is no longer a strategic asset for Pyongyang. Now, strategic uncertainty actually favors Washington to increase its leverage upon Pyongyang. Now it is Pyongyang who has to deal with uncertainties coming from Washington. So keeping North Korean authority guessing is very advantageous to Trump administration. So voicing out different perspectives on dealing with Kim Jong-un government and its nuclear and missile programs is not such a bad thing for Trump administration. It shows that it has the ability to take advantage of uncertainty in the situation to its advantages.
So now the table has turned. That's
Right.
I think that's a very interesting point. I do understand that there is a long road ahead until the leaders of the two Koreas can actually get together and sit down for talks. But do you think that inter-Korean summit can be held during President Moon Jae-in's tenure?
You're talking about timeline, which is quite long, 4 years, right? Barring that we have a new government with a constitutional revision now under discussion in South Korea. But I think there is a possibility. But as I said, that the timeline is not as important as the appropriate conditions in place. As President Moon Jae-in emphasized several times, that inter-Korean summit is not likely to take place prior to the resumption of the annual joint military exercises, which have been postponed to be held after the end of the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games and Paralympic Games. And North Korean authority is certainly going to protest the resumption of the military exercises, and the response by South Korean government and the United States government jointly will be determined the prospect of inter-Korean summit between Pyongyang and Seoul to be held. But in terms of South Korean government's interest in maintaining the leverage upon Pyongyang, I don't think South Korean government has no reasons to rush to have the inter-Korean summit meeting, which will be the third one in history in the earliest possible date, as claimed by North Korean authority. Waiting serves the interest of South Korean government.
North Korea is now actively showing its will to hold inter-Korean summit, and I must point out that this is quite unusual, and this is in stark contrast to its previous stance in recent years. Why?
Well, Town, there's a reason when somebody who used to be criticizing you that you tend to dismiss the person because you're rich and you have a very strong neighbor called Uncle Sam. The person may not like to talk to you quite often, and what if the person suddenly seek you and ask for a friendly meeting? I mean, it is most likely that the person desperately needs something from you, right? That's North Korea today. North Korea has been totally dismissing South Korea as a legitimate stakeholder in inter-Korean security situation until the beginning of this year. Now, North Korea tries to embrace South Korea as its best friend because South Korea has become suddenly the best strategic asset to Pyongyang. Interposing South Korea between itself and the United States, allegedly considering taking some military options toward North Korea. So North Korean authority suddenly finds the utility of South Korea. The point is that the Moon Jae-in government is very well aware of such a strategic calculation made by Kim Jong-un government of North Korea, and it decided to walk into the trap because seizing the trap can serve some benefits for South Korean government as a player between Pyongyang and Washington D.C. To ensure peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula for a while, and try to create momentum, which will eventually, help lead to a meaningful denuclearization talk, bilateral talk between Washington and Pyongyang. So the problem with Pyongyang is that we have seen this so many times before. You must be able to also testify on this as a reporter, right? Yes. Covering these issues for many, many years.
For so many years, yes.
So North Korea's strategy to embrace South Korea is subject to the law of diminishing return because North Korea's strategy has been too much exposed. So I don't think North Korea has a very strong leverage upon either Moon Jae-in government of South Korea or Trump administration of the United States.
Now, marking the Lunar New Year holiday, the South Korean government has also renewed its call on North Korea to hurry and push for a reunion of families separated by the Korean War. Do you think the family reunions can take place even though conditions are not yet met for inter-Korean summit?
I think so. North Korea will find it's in its interest to have at least one time reunion of the separate family members as a way of showing its genuine interest in keeping the momentum of improving inter-Korean relationship. It's another matter whether North Korean government is ready to accept the proposal made by the South Korean government during the second inter-Korean summit meeting between Mr. Kim Jong-il and the late President Moon in the second summit in 2007. South Korean government made 3 proposals at that time regarding reunion of separate family members. One, make it regular event, not just one-time event. And 2, allow correspondence between separate family members in the north and in the south. And 3rd, the governments will do their parts to discover whether the separate family members have died or still alive. But 3 conditions were flat rejected by North Korean government. So if North Korean government is going to accept these 3 major proposals regarding the separate family reunion, then it will be regarded as North Korea making a genuine effort in keeping the momentum of inter-Korean relations, which will also be beneficial for South Korean government to try to persuade the United States to give it a chance to talk to North Korea on the denuclearization.
I really hope that the family reunions can take place because time is running out for most people on the list.
Right, time is running out. If all surviving separate family members in South Korea are going to have at least one chance to see their family members in the north, we have to arrange meetings for 7,000 members of separate family members in South Korea every year.
That is a large number. Now, President Moon is taking a very cautious approach to post-Olympics inter-Korean relations. When can we expect a more detailed outline of the Moon administration's North Korea policy from this point on?
Well, Moon Jae-in government has already clearly outlined its North Korea policy. Is that it is important to keep the momentum for peace and stability that is created during the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games. It is important to keep the momentum in inter-Korean dialogue and cooperation, but everything should be decided in the framework of international consensus that North Korea's missile and nuclear programs and facilities have to be eliminated. So I don't think there will be a departure of South Korea from international coordination and cooperation to put the maximum pressure, probably in the form of the economic sanctions on North Korea, until North Korean authority is going to make a fundamentally different and bold strategic decisions.
One last question for you. We only have about a minute left. What kind of gestures or actions do you expect from North Korea after the Olympics? Do you expect a provocation too?
If North Korea is going to engage in major provocations, including another nuclear test or the ICBM test, it'll be suicidal. It will just ruin any momentum created by North Korea's participation in the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games, and Moon Jae-in government will find it extremely difficult to, try to support North Korea's position in any major ways, because solidarity between the United States, Japan, and South Korea will become enormously important. So it is up to North Korea whether it will find it's strategically advantageous to engage in another provocation, or restraining from that will serve its strategic interest better.
All right, thank you, Dr. Bong. We appreciate your expertise.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to get more updates on domestic and global news throughout the day.